Next, Mr. Chameleon and the murder clue of the rope ladder. Tonight, we again present the famous Mr. Chameleon of Central Police Headquarters in his famous cases of crime and murder, brought to you by the makers of genuine Bayer aspirin. Mr. Chameleon, as you know, is the famous and dreaded detective who frequently uses a disguise to track down a killer, a disguise which at all times is recognized by the audience. Tonight, we give you Mr. Chameleon in The Murder Clue of the Rope Ladder. "5 o'clock in the morning is a chilling hour, and a cry in the pre-dawn stillness can make the heart stand still. And Jules Marley, running down the upstairs corridor of the Haddon house, is terrified by the sound of his cousin Clifford's voice.
Jules! Jules!
Yes, Cliff, I'm coming. What's the matter?
Jules!
Here I am, Cliff. In heaven's name, what's the matter? Cliff, what's happened? All that blood.
It's Venda. It's my wife. She's dead. She's dead. Her beautiful throat has been slashed with a razor.
And a little later, with the early light filtering in the windows, we find Mr. Chameleon, the astute and dreaded detective, standing in the upstairs hall of the Haddon house, while Detective Dave Arnold stands beside him, both of them listening to the trembling Jules Marley.
It was the most terrible sight I've ever seen, Mr. Chameleon. Venta was so beautiful, and her throat was cut.
Yes, I've seen her body. She was killed with an old-fashioned razor. Mr. Marley, who in this house uses an old-fashioned razor?
Why, my cousin Clifford Haddon, Venta's husband, but he was mad about her.
I'd say madness had a great deal to do with it. It was that kind of murder. Did you say your cousin?
Yes, Mr. Chameleon. I was just visiting here. My home is in Connecticut.
I see. Does your cousin Clifford have any children?
Well, no, not exactly. Of course, there's Annette, but she's a stepdaughter.
You mean that she's the dead woman's daughter?
No. Annette was Venta's stepdaughter. The daughter of Venta's first husband, Arnold Phillips, who died.
I see. The house was full of relatives. The husband's cousin, the murdered wife's stepdaughter. Where is your cousin Clifford Haddon?
In his room, Mr. Chameleon, suffering from shock. It was he who discovered his wife's dead body.
Mm-hmm. I don't wonder he's suffering from shock. But I must talk to him.
Oh, well, I doubt if she'll let you, Mr. Chameleon.
She?
Yes, Clifford sent for a nurse, a Miss Kane.
Well, I'm afraid Miss Kane will have to let me see him. Dave?
Yes, Mr. Chameleon.
You go and find the stepdaughter, Annette Phillips, please.
I think she's in the dining room.
Thanks, Mr. Marley. Shall I send her to you, Mr. Chameleon?
Please. And about the razor that was found beside Mrs. Haddon's body. Send it to police headquarters to be checked for fingerprints.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Marley, is this your cousin's room?
Yes, Mr. Chameleon, but that nurse won't let you in.
We shall see. Miss Kane?
Yes? What do you want?
I'm Chameleon of Central Police Headquarters. I want to question Clifford Haddon
I'm
about
sorry,
his
but
wife's murder.
That's impossible. I can't let you talk to Mr. Haddon now.
You can't refuse to let me speak to him, Miss Kane. I'm going in.
And I say you can't. Mr. Haddon has had a heart attack. He shouldn't see anyone.
Well, he'll have to see me. This is murder, Miss Kane, the greatest crime that one human being can commit against another.
And some people deserve to be murdered, Mr. Chameleon. Some people ask for
It
it.
doesn't make it any less of a crime. Let me by, please. It's better. How do you do, sir?
Mr. Haddon, you don't have to talk to him. You're a sick man.
I won't, Alice. I mean, Miss Kane. You're Mr. Chameleon, the famous detective, aren't you? My cousin Jules Marley said you were coming.
Yes, Mr. Haddon. And although I sympathize with you, I must know one or two things. First, the razor with which your wife was murdered. It was yours?
Yes. The killer must have gotten it out of my dressing room.
Mm-hmm. Now, this room, your bedroom, it's about 2 doors down from your wife's room, isn't it? And both rooms, of course, are on the 2nd floor.
We hardly need a detective to tell us that, Mr. Chameleon.
Miss Kane, I happen to know what I'm doing. I'm trying to establish the position of the rooms, because the killer must have passed the door of this room in order to reach the murdered woman's room.
Well, if he did, I wouldn't have heard him, since I wasn't here.
Mr. Haddon, you mustn't get excited. Remember your heart.
Well, I wasn't here. My wife was murdered around 2 o'clock in the morning.
How did you know that, Mr. Haddon? Only the coroner could be sure of that.
Oh, I overheard the police doctor talking, Mr. Chameleon.
I see. Mr. Haddon, your wife did die at about 2 o'clock, and you were not here in the house?
No, I wasn't. I was at a banquet, and then I walked home. I got home around 4:30. Ask Annette, my wife's stepdaughter. She says she heard me come in. That was before anyone found out poor Venter was dead. Ask Annette, ask her.
I have someone looking for Annette now. And perhaps you'd better listen to your nurse and not get so excited. Miss Kane, by the way, which hospital do you come from?
I don't see how that concerns you.
Miss Kane, which hospital do you come from?
Why, Bartholomew's.
Where are you going, Mr. Chameleon?
Talk to your stepdaughter, Annette, of course, Mr. Haddon. I want to check your story with her before we continue.
Continue? Mr. Chameleon, you're not going to question Mr. Haddon further.
I shall question everyone connected with this case, Miss Kane, until I find Venter Haddon's murderer. Dave?
Oh, yes, Mr. Chameleon. I was just going to knock on the door. I've been talking to the stepdaughter, Annette, and her boyfriend.
Her boyfriend?
Yeah, nice young kid named Hal Wilson. They're right in here.
Ah, thank you, Dave. Oh, a very nice picture they make, don't they? Young love and distress. Annette, Hal, I'm Chameleon of Central Police Headquarters.
Oh, Mr. Chameleon, I'm glad you're here. I want Annette to talk to you. I wanted to tell you the truth about everything.
That's exactly what I'm looking for, Hal, the truth. First, I want to ask you, Annette, whether it is true that you heard your stepfather, Clifford Haddon, come in around 4 o'clock in the morning, nearly 2 hours after his wife, Venter, was murdered.
Yes, Mr. Chameleon. It's perfectly true.
Were you awake also around 2, the time of the murder?
No, I heard nothing then. Oh, Mr. Chameleon, it's so hideous. My stepmother, Venter, was so beautiful.
Were you fond of her, Annette?
Yes, Venter was very kind to me. After all, it wasn't her fault if...
Well, if what?
Darling, tell Mr. Chameleon everything. You must, dear.
Yes, Annette. You really must.
Mr. Chameleon, there was an awful situation in this house. Jules Marley, Clifford's cousin, had fallen in love with Venter. He was madly in love with her.
And she with him?
No. In fact, she ordered Jules out of the house.
So in a frustrated rage...
He might have killed her.
Might is a word that I try to avoid using. What about the razor?
It was Clifford's, but Jules used it too. When he came here, he didn't intend to stay for a long visit. He had very little luggage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure, Mr. Chameleon, that you'll find Jules Marley's fingerprints on the razor as well as Clifford Haddon's.
Well, I'll bet you anything that Mr. Jules Marley will remember that fact and volunteer the information that he used the razor too. Oh, here he comes. You'd both better go for the present.
Mr. Chameleon, I'm not afraid of Jules Marley. I'll take care of Annette.
I'm sure you will, Al. Nevertheless, you'd better go. I'll see you later.
Okay. Come on, sweetheart.
Well, I hope I didn't chase away the young folks, Mr. Chameleon. I'm sure anything they were saying to you, they wouldn't mind my hearing.
Are you worried about what they were saying, Mr. Marley?
Not at all. Why should I be? You talked to my cousin Clifford before you talked to them, didn't you?
Yes.
Did you learn much from Clifford?
Not much. Mr. Marley, you were in the house all night, were you not? You were here at the time of the murder.
Of course, Mr. Chameleon. But surely you're not intimating that I could have killed Venter. Why, I was Venter's friend. I introduced her to Clifford. In fact, it was because of Venter that I came for a visit.
What do you mean?
Well, Mr. Chameleon, I feel I should tell you this. Venter wrote to me. She said she was in desperate trouble. She said her husband, Clifford, was infatuated with another woman.
Oh.
I don't know. Neither did she. But she was frightened. She had a feeling that this woman was very strong. So strong that she was dominating Clifford completely.
Who does that sound like?
Why, no one I know, Mr. Chameleon.
No, Mr. Marner? I believe you're mistaken. Now, one more thing. Do you believe that your cousin Clifford is as ill as he says he is? Well, do you?
Frankly, no. I think he's shamming, Mr. Chameleon.
So do I, and I think I know a way to find out. I'm going back into that sick room.
Oh, and Mr. Chameleon.
Yes?
There's something else I'd like to say. That razor, you know, I shared it with my cousin Clifford. We were both of us accustomed to using old-fashioned razors. So, if you should find my fingerprints on it along with Clifford's, I hope you won't misunderstand.
Mr. Marner, you would be surprised how seldom we cops misunderstand. It's the guilty person who doesn't understand that he's giving himself away. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll speak to Miss Kane, your cousin Clifford's nurse.
Mr. Chameleon, are you going to disturb my patient again?
I would if I thought it necessary, Miss Kane, but you're the one who can help me now. I saw a box of pills on his bedside table. I want them, please.
You can't have those pills.
I intend to have them, if I have to force my way into the room and take them.
But, Mr. Chameleon, suppose Mr. Clifford should have a heart attack.
The pills are for his heart?
Yes. Surely you can see that, and that I wouldn't dare give you the box of pills.
How many does he take when he has an attack?
One.
Then you may keep one, Miss Kane. I shall take the rest.
I won't let the box go.
You will go in and get the box, and I am going to stand at the door to see that it is that box that you give me, Miss Kane.
Very well, Mr. Chameleon. I'll get the box.
Strong is the word for him. Very strong. And not unattractive. I wonder.
Here you are, Mr. Chameleon. And now I hope you let us have some peace.
When Venter Haddon's murderer is found, Miss Kane, we will all have some peace. And not before.
Alice. Alice.
Be quiet, Clifford. Do you want Mr. Chameleon to hear you?
What did he want with that box of pills, Alice? Why did you give it to him?
I had to, Clifford. He's smarter than we are. I don't like it. I just don't like it.
Neither do I, Alice. But we're in it now, and there's no backing out. And all we can do is hope for the best.
But even as this strange conversation is taking place, Mr. Chameleon is peering through a door just down the hall. And he beckons to Detective Dave Arnold and says,
Dave, come here. I want to show you something.
Did you get the pills, Mr. Chameleon?
Yes, the box of them. Look, this room is Clifford Haddon's dressing room.
Uh-huh.
That door over there opens into his wife's room.
Yeah?
Now take a look under that chest of drawers, Dave. What do you see?
Why, it looks like a rope ladder, Mr. Chameleon.
It is, Dave.
Uh-huh. A rope ladder.
Wait. Leave it there.
Leave it there?
Mm-hmm. I just noticed it this minute, and I don't want it touched. I don't want it mentioned.
But, Mr. Chameleon...
Believe me, Dave, I know what I'm doing. My guess is that rope ladder was used for one of two purposes. Someone lowered it from the second-floor window here, and an accomplice, the actual killer, was admitted to the house. Or the killer used it to let himself out right after the murder so he could pretend that he returned home at a much later hour.
Clifford Haddon says he didn't get in till after 4.
No, Dave, no accusations yet. Only suspicions. Anyway, I want that rope ladder left there under the chest of drawers. We have 3 clues now. The weirdest collection of clues I've ever seen. An old-fashioned razor, a box of pills, and a rope ladder. And of all of them, the rope ladder may be the clue that points to the murderer.
Mr. Chameleon and the murder clue of the rope ladder continues in just a moment. If you ever take anything to relieve an ordinary headache, remember this about genuine Bayer aspirin. Its single active ingredient is so gentle to the system that mothers give it even to small children on their doctor's advice. Now, this is important, for it means that Bayer aspirin is something you can take with complete confidence. It means that besides fast relief, Bayer aspirin also offers you the dependable relief that's important to your health. For Bayer aspirin is not only ready to go to work in 2 seconds, but also has an unmatched record of use by millions of normal people without ill effect. So don't experiment when you're in pain. Take no chances with drugs that have not been proved by years of successful use. For the 2 most important kinds of relief, use something you know is completely dependable, genuine Bayer aspirin. When you buy, ask for it by its full name, Bayer aspirin, not just for aspirin alone. Get the 100-tablet bottle and you get Bayer aspirin tablets for less than a penny apiece. And now back to Mr. Chameleon and the murder clue of the rope ladder. The brutal murder of Venta Haddon, whose throat was cut with a razor, involves several people, particularly her husband, Clifford Haddon. But to Mr. Chameleon, the most valuable clue of all is the rope ladder which he found hidden in Clifford's dressing room. And we find him now in his office at Central Police Headquarters, Detective Arnold at his elbow, and he is saying, over the telephone,
All right, Detective Foley, go to it right away. Check every company and store which sells rope ladders. And the minute you get any information, let me know, Right-o, goodbye. Well, Dave, that should bring in something.
Right, Mr. Chameleon.
That is, if the rope ladder was purchased recently. How about you? What did you find out about Clifford Haddon's illness? Did you talk to his doctor?
Yes, sir, I did.
Good.
And no heart trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Clifford Haddon's heart is in excellent condition.
Exactly what did the doctor say?
He said that he'd treated Clifford Haddon for about 5 years, and never once had he found symptoms of heart disease. But...
So there's a but, huh?
A small one, yes. At times, Clifford Haddon imagined he had a bad heart. What it really amounted to, the doctor said, was acute indigestion.
Aha, that ties in very neatly.
With what, Mr. Chameleon?
The pills. I just got the report from the laboratory. Those pills were a simple remedy for indigestion, not for Clifford Haddon's heart at all.
And Alice Kane, that nurse, was lying.
Not only that, Dave, I found out there never was a nurse named Alice Kane graduated from Bartholomew's Hospital.
You know, the French cops are right when they say, cherchez la femme, find the woman.
Well, I've always thought so, Dave. But, why? Why are Alice Kane and Clifford putting on an act, trying to make us believe that he had a heart attack from the shock of his wife's murder? What are they trying to cover?
Oh, Chameleon.
Oh, hello, Commissioner. I was just coming down to your office. What's up?
Well, plenty. What does this nurse, Alice Kane, look like?
Tall, in her late 30s, a very domineering woman, quite good-looking in a sultry way, dark auburn hair.
That's the one. At least she certainly fits the description.
What description?
Does she have a police record, Commissioner?
No, Dave. But you remember, Chameleon, you sent a couple of men to Clifford Haddon's office just for routine questioning?
Yes.
Well, the report just came in. They talked to Clifford Haddon's secretary, but Haddon's general manager was missing from the office. She had phoned she was going away on a trip and couldn't be reached.
She?
Yes, Chameleon. Haddon's office manager is a woman. Her name is Alice Witterell, and the description of her fits exactly the description of Alice Kane, the nurse. So that means she's now posing as Clifford Haddon's practical nurse.
That does it, Commissioner. Dave, I'm going up to the Haddon's house. I want you to work on tracking down that rope ladder. If you learn anything, try to reach me wherever I am.
Right, Mr. Chameleon.
Things are starting to move fast, and we've got to move fast, too. We've got to be just one jump ahead of the killer.
And so we find Mr. Chameleon, a short time afterwards, again on the second floor of the Haddon home. And again he is confronting his old antagonist, the woman who has been posing as Clifford Haddon's nurse. And he is saying,
I warn you, Miss Kane, I want no nonsense or any argument from you. I'm here to see Clifford Haddon.
And I warn you, Mr. Chameleon, he's a very sick man. Mrs. Haddon's stepdaughter, Annette, is with him now. And I don't want him talking to more than one person.
Don't you? Alice Witterell?
What did you call me?
You heard me, Miss Witterell. Mr. Haddon? Annette, stay where you are. In fact, it's Annette I'd like to question first.
Mr. Chameleon, what is this?
You'll soon find out, Mr. Haddon. Annette, tell me, have you ever been in Mr. Haddon's office?
No, Mr. Chameleon.
Well, have you ever seen this woman in this house before?
Why, no, this is the first time. Clifford needed a nurse and someone recommended her. Isn't that right, Clifford?
Why,
Tell him, Clifford. Tell him it's true.
Mr. Haddon, if you have any sense at all, you will stop acting out this lie right here and now. The police know that this woman isn't Alice Kane, a nurse. She's Alice Whittrell, your general manager at the office.
Clifford!
It's true, Annette. It's absolutely true. We might as well admit it, Alice. Mr. Chameleon's smarter than we are.
All right, Clifford. And maybe the whole masquerade was foolish. But, Mr. Chameleon, we got into it simply because of panic.
You mean when Clifford Haddon's wife, Venter, was murdered, he sent for you because you could think more clearly. You were stronger than he was.
Yes, something like that.
And what about the rope ladder?
Rope ladder?
Yes, Annette. Your stepfather, Clifford Haddon, has a rope ladder hidden in his dressing room. How do you explain it, Mr. Haddon?
Mr. Chameleon, that's why I sent for Alice. Because I was terrified when I found that ladder. I knew it had something to do with my wife's murder, but I don't know how it got there in my room. I don't know who it belongs to.
It belongs to the murderer, Mr. Haddon.
Well, yes. Yes, I figured that, too. And I figured that the killer would come back to get me. That's why I sent for Alice, because I was afraid.
He wanted me here in the house, Mr. Chameleon. So I decided to pose as his nurse.
And the two of you expect me to believe that story, that fantastic story?
Mr. Chameleon.
What? Oh, Hal Wilson.
Hal, what is it?
Detective Arnold is here. He's in a hurry. He said he must see Mr. Chameleon alone.
Thank you, Hal. I'll go down immediately. As for you, Mr. Haddon, and you, Miss Whittrell, you haven't told me anything so far that helps either of you. Hal, where's Detective Arnold?
Down in the library. What's all the excitement about, Mr. Chameleon?
Hal, we're very close to arresting the murderer. And when that moment comes, there may be trouble, so stay close to Annette. If you love her, don't go far away. Take care of her.
Oh, I will, Mr. Chameleon. Don't worry.
Goodbye. Dave?
Right here, Mr. Chameleon. Well, we found the place where the rope ladder was bought.
And?
It's the Apex Ladder Company on Smith Street. A man and a woman bought it.
A man and a woman, huh?
Mm-hmm. The only thing is the clerk at the store doesn't think he could identify them. In fact, he's positive he couldn't, Mr. Chameleon.
Oh, then it's up to me to identify them, isn't it?
Well, what do you mean?
Dave, I called the murdered woman's lawyer. Venter Haddon's will is to be read to the family tomorrow. I'm coming here before the hour that the will is to be read, and I'm coming disguised as a Mr. Parker, representative of the company that sold the rope ladder.
And so, the following morning, we find Mr. Chameleon approaching the Haddon house with Detective Arnold. And Mr. Chameleon, in his disguise of bluff, red-haired Mr. Parker, is saying,
Dave, this may be a tough job. I'll need you when the door of that house closes behind me. Now, I want you to get in any way that you can. I don't care how, just get in so that no one knows you're there.
Okay, Mr. Chameleon, you can count on me. I'll manage it. And you watch your step.
I will. I think I'll need to, Dave.
A minute later, the front door of the Haddon house has been opened by Jules Marley, Clifford Haddon's cousin. And Mr. Chameleon, in the voice of his disguise, is saying,
Morning. My name is Parker, Albert Parker, from the Apex Ladder Company on Smith Street.
How do you do, Mr. Parker? My name is Jules Marley. When I heard the bell, I thought it was the family lawyer.
No lawyer, just a company representative. I'd like to speak to whoever rented that rope ladder.
Well, the family's all in the upstairs library. I'll take you up.
Thanks. Ladder was only rented, you know, to be returned yesterday.
What ladder are you talking about?
Rope ladder, of course. You the guy that rented it?
Why, no, I never heard of any rope ladder.
Well, someone in this house rented it.
Well, I can't imagine who. But here's the family. Cliff, Annette, this man here claims that one of you rented a rope ladder from the Apex Company.
That's right. Now, which of you did it? Who's Mr. Haddon? You, young man?
No, my name is Wilson, Hal Wilson.
I'm Clifford Haddon, but I certainly didn't rent a rope ladder.
There a rope ladder in this house?
Yes, there is. But no one here rented it.
Alice.
It's true, Clifford. There's something strange about this. What are you trying to do, Mr. Parker?
I'm trying to pick up a rope ladder that was rented from my company, and I don't like your attitude. There's something funny here, all right. I know as well as you do that a lady was murdered in this house.
Get out of here. I'm
going to talk to the cops about this. I should think you'd have had enough trouble as it is. I'm going right downstairs and out of this house.
Oh, Mr. Parker,
some nerve. Thinking they could get away with it. Someone in this house got that rope ladder from Apex, and someone... Hey, look out! What are you trying to do? Push me downstairs? Kill me? I expected you to do this. That's why I managed to grab you. If I break my neck, you'll probably break yours, too.
Well, you're Chameleon.
You bet I'm Chameleon, Hal Wilson. You should have thought of that before you jumped me. You should have thought of that before you pushed me down those stairs and tried to kill me.
Hey,
Dave!
Here I am, Mr. Chameleon, with the handcuffs all ready.
Annette! Annette, help me! Help!
Hal, what happened? Hal?
What happened, Annette, is that your boyfriend, Hal Wilson, tried to kill me, just as he killed your stepmother, Venta Haddon, because he was afraid that the truth would come out, that it was you and he together who bought that rope ladder.
No.
Clifford Haddon and Alice Whitterell's story was true. It was fantastic enough, so it almost had to be true. They did not murder Venta Haddon. It was you, Hal Wilson. So you could share in the fortune Annette inherited from her stepmother, Venta Haddon. I know about that fortune. Venta Haddon's lawyer told me.
And if I killed her, how do you think I got in here? Who lowered the rope ladder so I could climb to the second floor, Chameleon? It was Annette. Annette who hated her stepmother.
Yes, I hated her. And you, Hal, killed her willingly because you loved me. You said you'd do anything for me. You loved me so much.
Well, he doesn't love you now, Annette. He'll testify against you. When murder walks in the door, love flies out the window. Dave, handcuff her too, please. These sweet, wholesome young people who together committed one of the most vicious crimes I've ever encountered.
And with these words, Mr. Chameleon concludes tonight's murder case. It's only natural that when you have an ordinary headache, you want fast relief. And to find out how quickly Bayer aspirin is ready to go to work, all you need do is test it in a glass of water. What happens to a Bayer aspirin tablet in the glass also happens in your stomach. And the speed with which it disintegrates indicates the speed with which it's ready to go to work. When you make this test, you'll see that Bayer aspirin tablets start disintegrating almost instantly, are actually ready to go to work in 2 seconds. Hence, they provide remarkably fast relief. So when you need something to relieve pain, be sure of how quickly it will act. Be sure with Bayer aspirin. And when you buy, ask for Bayer aspirin, not just for aspirin alone. Get the 100-tablet bottle, and you get Bayer aspirin tablets for less than a penny apiece. Listen next Wednesday night at this same time for Mr. Chameleon, the man of many faces, in The Case of the Unwanted Child. The part of Mr. Chameleon is played by Carl Swenson, with dialogue by Marie Baumer, from the original story by Frank and Ann Hummert. Music directed by Victor Arden. Your announcer is Howard Claney.
A remarkable scientific discovery now makes it possible to cut down tooth decay. You simply use new ammoniated Dr. Lyon's tooth powder. Based on a formula developed by University of Illinois scientists, it actually destroys bacterial Lactobacillus acidophilus, which cause tooth decay. Now think of the pain, worry, and expense this can save you, the wonderful difference it can make in the health and beauty of your teeth. So to cut down tooth decay, to have sounder, healthier, handsomer teeth, use ammoniated Dr. Lyon's tooth powder. Both regular Dr. Lyon's tooth powder and new ammoniated Dr. Lyon's are at all drug and toilet goods counters.
Listen for Mr. Chameleon in The Case of the Unwanted Child next Wednesday night at this time. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.